Francesca, and for the whole weekend. So
thank you, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Da 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 da.
And 5, 6, 7. And 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. So we started to work with this rhythm. And why are we choosing this rhythm? It's because this is the Milonga rhythm. When we listen to Milonga, what makes us recognize this as Milonga is this rhythm that is there. It's a little bit faster in the Milonga than in the Habanera from Carmen. Yeah, so it's and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, but it's the same rhythm.
Now the most important part was to start to understand. We're gonna start to walk mostly the time in the basic beat. It's when we call it 1, 3, 5, 7. Right? Right? 1, 3, 5, 7. Right. And now, from this point, what we start to do is to start to, if you have a subdivision of the music, you're going to have a subdivision of the way we walk. That means if I walk on the beat like this, 1, 3, 5, 7, it's like I'm going to try to have a subdivision. And 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7.
And that means that when you're playing with faster rhythms and trying to use them, the steps need to be shorter. Because if you keep the same length of step, you're going to start feeling rushed. If I'm going 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, you know, I'm going to feel tired really fast and I feel like I'm struggling to keep up with the music. So that's one thing, you understand that the steps need to be shorter. And the other thing that is said that when you're counting, you're skipping 4 and 8, and that's not a coincidence. Those two, you know, numbers, they correspond to the pauses. So that means that even though the rhythm is compelling and the beat's fast and it seems that you need to keep going, that you have opportunities to pause and to, you know, to slow down basically, to rest. And you're doing this by having this drop. So 1, 3, 5, 7. Yeah, we practiced first the drop on every other step. Obviously, we don't dance like that because otherwise that would be really, you know, like a hiccup. Okay, anyway, so the point is that we practice this drop, and obviously you're not gonna use it on every other step because it's not right to have a hiccup, but you're gonna use it anytime you want to create the pause. Yeah? Just to have a little rest there, little grounding. And that's going to help also for us to coordinate our changes of speed. If you're going, you know, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. It's easier to create the speed from that place because you can spring up and the follower will have the opportunity to spring into action than to starting from now.
And now,
okay?
when we come in, once I want to do this quick part, first is we're going to do 1, 3, 5, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. Why is it important to drop in 7? Because I'm gonna tell the follower something gonna change, right? Down. I'm gonna do 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2, and she doesn't start in that.
I'm like running to, you know, protect my feet. So it's not the idea.
Yeah, the idea is to start to the point where you can rest. 1, 3, 5, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. This is the point where the follower is gonna start to feel something gonna change. It's not abruptly, as she can read the action. On the next point, we're gonna start to do was going on this idea with going drop down again. Example 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. Now when you play with the rhythm, doesn't matter the direction you wanna play, try to return to a position where we reconnect with the follower all the time, right? And the floor helps that. 1, 3, 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. And 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. You can play in any direction you want. At least it's reorganize the dance all the time. 3 and 7 and the pause in 4 and 8 when I give you that chance. Because not most of the time it's running. After that, we're gonna get to the point where we go in the play. I play with her. And I start to use what we call the drum fill. Like I go into the drum like I'm drunk. It's 1, 2, 3, and and 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. This sensation is coming more from your base, from your hip. Every time you want to play with this, it's important to understand my base is going to create the action. I'm falling on the sensation, but not from the chest. It's more the follower is going to feel like she defends. It's a defensive way to walk. If she's falling, the leg is catching, right? Now, what is important to feel? Every time you play on this fall feeling, it's like feeling like we can move together, but it's not falling on it. And now, we're gonna have the between. I'm not falling, but I'm getting the weight, control the action. 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7. You can play all the time in base of that, and we're gonna organize the dance. Because the problem about the milonga looks like we need to do so many stuff and we need to rush. But you can choose the moments on the music to play and no run. Because it's not about to run, it's about to have fun. Let me show you. Okay, the first thing we started to do was start working about in our base. The first exercise we did was what we call the Tai Chi down. On this exercise, I'm gonna start to feel my chest. Okay, in this case is Francesca, is connecting with my head, right? And now everything I'm gonna do is, in a circular action, is gonna be connected with the chest. My hip, when I use the upper body, when I use the exertion, the idea is not to get involved on that. That means I'm not moving my hip to move my chest. Like we dissociate. The other thing we do is start to feel like the hip is going back and forth. If I place my leg like this, it's like try to walk in two directions. This is important to feel like when you do a step forward, you're walking in this direction. And the other is to change levels. When you change the level, that is, the change of the level is coming from the legs.
But the posture is maintained, yeah? So in all of that we are doing here, we can have dissociation involved. Yeah, the embrace is always connected to the chest, it's not moving independently. And then we have weight transfers and even changes of level. And through all of that, we're working, with the legs and the floor, displacing the hips, but the posture is maintained. There is nothing that is starting in the upper body right now, because you're doing displacements, and the displacement's really about the lower body working with the floor, right? So this first exercise is just to start to get the feeling for that, for how you're using the lower body to in this case, to move back and forth. Okay. So now, the next thing that's going to help us a lot has to do with the back and how we can relax the lower back so that we're more grounded. So this is an exercise that you can do on the floor or on the chair as I'm doing now. I'm sitting here on the edge. And one thing this chair is funny. So anyway, that's fine. So one thing that is common to do when you're dancing is that you arch the back a little bit and you have a little tension there. And that tension pulls my hips away from the floor. So I'm going to try to let go of that. I'm going to relax the lower back so that my hips settle, in this case, onto the chair. Yeah, when I do that, I'm going to feel my sits bones, these bones that are down here. I'm really trying to discharge the hips weight, yeah, through the sits bone. Yeah, so that's what you're doing. At the same time, I don't want to slouch, right? So, but I'm going to use my core muscles to prevent myself from slouching. So I'm going to imagine I'm blowing a candle. And when I do that, I start to use these muscles here. That's what you use when you're blowing. I'm going to take those muscles and pull them in. It's also possible to think of these little bones here behind the ears. It's as if you're trying to reach up with those bones, but at the same time, keeping the lower back relaxed. Yeah? So when you do that, we are growing. It's like our spine is getting longer and longer, and the lower back stays relaxed. The whole back should be relaxed, in fact. Yeah? Later, you can try to find the same feeling standing up, where you're here, you try to avoid that tension. Relax the lower back, relax, relax. The hips are low, and then we can grow by using the core. So we are using the core more to support the spine and letting the back muscles relax so we can maintain our full mobility there. And that's for our posture for grounding. It's going to make the weight transfers easier. After that, we started to try to take some side, forward, and backward steps together. And one thing that I mentioned is that we want to connect throughout the whole weight transfer. You're not just trying to connect to the beginning and the end of the step. For instance, I'll do this with her. Yeah? And sometimes you think about tango as discrete movements. They have a side step, I have a forward step, or a boleo, or this or that, yeah? And I could think, okay, we're gonna take a side step. Okay, I took my side step, she took her side step. That's good enough. But now you're not gonna think like that in terms of those discrete movements. You're going to think on a moment-by-moment basis. So even though, yes, you're going to take side steps, I'm thinking that I want to connect with her throughout the step. In this case, I'm doing it very slow. It could be the same even if you go fast. So I'm trying to find, one idea was to find the 50-50 point where our weight is equally distributed, yeah, and that helps us to connect throughout. And one thing Luis was saying is that that connection is really a connection of our hips. Yeah, this is our base that is traveling in space. The upper body is just going along for the ride. And we are thinking that our hips are traveling at the same speed. In other words, I'm not gonna get there first and then she's trying to catch up, or the other way around. Sometimes the follower rushes, yeah? So we are going to be more focused on how we are getting from point to point, and each moment matters. That's what you're looking for. It's a continuous connection. It's not just at the beginning or at the end of the step. Yeah, the connection is throughout. And this is in the weight transfer. So we could do the same thing here in the embrace. And now, yes, you're touching here. The embrace is our channel. Every part where we are touching each other is a part where you can feel the other person's movement. It's the channel, but it's not the engine of the movement. The engine of the movement, what creates the movement, is our hips and our legs, yeah, with the floor. So even though now I'm holding her here in the embrace, I'm still not creating anything with the upper body. It's not that I'm gonna try to lead her from there. My upper body is quite relaxed, and I'm relying on my hips and my legs to create my movement and to be aware of her movement on a moment-by-moment basis so that we go together. And then finally, thank you. We had a couple of extra technical details about the weight transfers themselves that help us accomplish all of these things you're talking about. One of them that we described was the use of the adductors, yeah, the muscles in the inner thighs. So we talked about getting in here in the side step, and for the side step, you're going to think of closing the legs using those muscles, yeah? So that, because it's common, if you relax those muscles, our hip goes first. You kind of collapse there. It's like you're here, you're there. Then you don't have so much control of the weight transfer, and it's harder to be so polished in the connection, yeah? So you want to have full control there so that you can get that really fine connection with our partner. The same thing going back, we're trying to using those muscles, or we said, you know, you can think of the bones going up, yeah, or forward. And the other thing that I used in also for this was the arches of the feet to help complete the transfer. So the same way that here in place I'm using my arches both to push myself up and to control the way I go down, the same is going to be true during the walk. So if I'm going forward, I use the arch of the back foot to take me there. And if I'm going backward, I use the arch of the back foot to control how I'm transferring the weight backwards. Because if I don't use that, then I basically fall into each step. Okay, so those are some of the points. After you relax the lower back and use the adductors, another thing that really helped us to keep this alignment was this idea of the temple that we said. Not on these cheeks, on these cheeks. Yeah?
Everybody can choose different cheeks.
So you want to pay attention. Basically, the idea is that you want to have, you know, the glutes engaged enough that we are upright. Because if we relax there too much, then our hip falls to the side, and then all of the weight transfer become, you know, ideas become more difficult. Okay? That was it for now. Let's not clap because Francesca is leaving. But thanks everyone. We'll continue in 10 minutes or so. Yes, like this. Okay. Thanks everyone. So practicing our pivots basically, and understanding that in order to pivot we need to use our core muscles in a specific way. It's along the diagonals of the body and the standing leg. And you're going to try to avoid using the free leg to create the pivots.
You can use the free leg, you can. It's not like it's forbidden. But most of the time when they don't have a good control on the standing leg, the free legs pull you out of access. And now, if you have a good control, if you want to play with the free leg, you can. You can, but it's not forbidden. But the other problem is I start to see the dimple. The people don't use the dimples to sustain the inner side of the leg to be strong on the pivots. Most of the time they start to do the pivot and the hip start to fall off. And now, using the dimple most of the time is going to give you the stability you need, right? This is what we do one exercise. First one is to have a light object on the front of the hand. You can move the object to the side. You can bring the hip where is the object. You can move the hip away from the object and bring the object back. Transfer to the side. Put the object to the side. Bring the object on the front. Move the hip away, and after bring the object. The most important is start to use the happy dog muscles. The other thing is be careful with the alignment, because most of the time the people they try to do the pivot and now they're going to the dimples out and the weak side of the foot is there.
Yeah, it's very common in the case here. In this case, it's the leader. When you're bringing the follower around you with the embrace, yeah, you need dissociation. This movement needs to come from the waist and up. But it's common if you don't pay attention for the hip to go to. And now your hip is not over the foot anymore. So when you try to pivot, you're going to struggle. Yeah, it's not gonna be as precise, so as stable. So you really are going to have to pay attention there, that when you have this action of bringing the follower around, that's not disturbing your alignment there. Yeah, keeping the dimple, keeping your axis. And if you keep that, then the pivot is gonna be a lot easier.
Okay. And the next point we start to do is start to thinking about to practice on this idea of the baburoches and focus all the time on the standing leg. And now, is that we're going to the side step, we're going to do this one. Like diagonal. Side step, I'm going to try to make the pivot. We don't try to use the other
the dimple, we have the axis, then we have the weight transfer, you find the dimple,
right?
pivot.
Try to find them on this point, like you align the body, strong on the inner side, non-collapsing, right? From there. Yes, to start to have a reference of the position of the other person, but not to use
You can even do this using a wall as a reference, but not touching the wall, because when you touch the wall, it's hard for us to tell sometimes whether you're really pushing or using the wall to stabilize ourselves. So you could do this without touching, yeah, just like some inches away from the wall, and you try to practice your backward ochos, yeah, and paying attention that you're keeping the embrace at the same distance from the wall, yeah, but without touching, because then sometimes you don't even know that you're helping yourselves there, and then...
Okay, sometimes the people do this. You see the chest? That's another idea too. We start to feel like this coming the core and the upper body stays. Right? Every time you do forward, backwards, it's going to be the same idea.
Okay. After that, we practiced one person going around the other for our molinetes. And both the arms and the legs, they're going around the circle centered on our partner. It's gonna go forward, side, back, side. And the important thing here to understand is that we have two kinds of movements when you're going around each other. One is the weight transfer and the other one is the pivot. And each of these movements, when it's happening, needs to be complete before you attempt the next one. So for instance, if now this is my forward step, I need to finish my weight transfer, be nice and stable there before I try to pivot. I'm not going to try to get in there and pivot at the same time because it's not going to be as stable. Yeah, so weight transfer is finished. I don't need to collect. I do need to transfer the weight completely though. Then I pivot. Weight transfer complete on the side step, then I can pivot and so on. Even in the side step, it's common for both leaders and followers when they're doing this to just like be taking the side step and pivoting simultaneously. No. And that's not stable. Side step, then pivot. Yeah?
Well, you can practice this to be sure if you do the action from the standing leg or from the free leg, is what we call the clock. It's like I can maintain the arms on the same, and I try to maintain like a side step, right? I'm going to try to move my standing, the foot in the front, but basically I do it from the standing leg, right? Going on this sensation, like every time you want to work on this, is the standing leg controlling the free leg. When you do somebody flying here, most of the time, I want you check if they do it from the standing leg or if they do it from the free leg. It looks like it's from the free leg, but it's more control from the standing leg than the free leg.
Okay.
Yeah?
Then in the end you use these ideas and you apply them. Oh, first you did the
Yes.
shoulder blade, yeah?
And now, we start to say, okay, and now we start to find the sensation. You can practice like moving the hip, right? But it's not using the arms, it's using the shoulder blade, and you extend it on the brace. That means I'm gonna start to play with this and try to feel I can make the follower around of her, making the change of direction on the hip, right? When I get that, it's the moment I start to think, this is around her axis, or this is around my axis. It's around her axis.
Yeah.
We can call this direction and position. That means when I want the follower to change to a new direction, the hip change. And after, from this position, I can bring her to the new position. That means the chest places the follower in a new place, but she needs to be ready. This is why we do this turn. Side step, I make the pivot from the follower, back, side. When she's doing the side step on this transfer of weight, is when I try to put the hip ahead of her.
You pivots during my side step, and there he is.
Yeah, that means when I do side step, I lead the pivot of the follower, I place it here on my side. When she's on my side, I try to put the hip ahead of her and after breathe. But on this action to try to leave the follower there when she's doing the transfer, we're gonna connect the end of the turn. Like on this point, when she's doing on this point, when I try to do that, I'm gonna be ahead, but basically in the motion, we arrive together.
Okay.
And now the leader don't try to make the last turn until, and the followers too, until the hip arrives on the axis.
I'm on the axis, then he tries to pivot me, and the same thing for me. I'm not gonna rush through that pivot. I really try to find that axis. Somebody asked me, what should I do if the leader is rushing me? And I said, for me, the best thing I can try to do every time is really try to find my axis.
Even
Because
in the
if I can go and find my axis, then I'll be able to do my pivots really fast. But if I'm trying to rush to the pivot or to the next step, before I found the axis, I'm going to feel a little bit off, and then I'm going to feel more and more rushed and more uncomfortable. Okay?
even on the backward in the beginning.
Yeah.
Back, she plays the dimple first before you want to walk back, because that's the other problem too. Like the people don't try to preserve the axis and they try to go right away.
Right.
Besides that. Now, on this point, on the other side, hold on. You're gonna do the same. We're gonna do side. We're gonna leave the pivot. Back, side. When it's going this point, I try to place the hip ahead. The problem about this side is the embrace. That means on this point, when we do back and side, I really need to maintain the embrace close and dissociate more. If I have blocked the action on the shoulder,
He pushes me.
I push him and she starts to feel a backward object. Let me show you what happens if I do back, side, and I use tension, and now she feels again a backward object. I'm not opening the space for her.
So you can try to practice that side, at home later, but paying attention to the dissociation there.
So can you do it in both directions continuous?
Without talking, yes.
Without talking?
Mhm.
Oh, it's so boring. Back, side, forward. And
Well,
back,
keep
side,
going.
Forward. And
Oh, can
back,
keep
side,
going?
Forward.
In the same direction?
Back,
Yeah.
side, forward.
Oh, going in the
Y en el
same
mismo
direction.
Yes.
Forward. Back, side, forward.
And then the other direction?
This side. Back, side, forward. Side, back, side, forward. Oh, stay around this leg. But that's another story.
Yes.
Okay, you take a short break, 6 minutes. We start.
The first thing we start to do is we start a little game, squeezing the hand, and on this point with the follower is going to do side or back, right? It was squeezing, and I try to follow her.
This is a game, so now I'm choosing which way we go, and he's following me. He's just giving me that go signal with the hand, and I'm choosing. And what is the point of this exercise? The point is for both of us to understand that the follower cannot move instantaneously. Every time there is a lead, there is a certain time for the follower to react. And both of us need to know that and take that into account. He's going to take that into account when he's creating the timing of the lead, knowing that he cannot lead the step in the last moment because I need time to react. And I also need to understand that for myself, and that I know that I don't need to rush through any movement, that I'm really taking my time to initiate my movement and then complete it, instead of feeling a little bit frantic that I gotta be there right away when the lead comes. Yeah. So for both of us, it's important to understand that the follower has a certain time to react, and then we start to use that in everything they're leading and following.
And now on this point, what we need to understand is like every time I try to lead the follower, we're gonna use a specific point on her body. In this moment, we started talking about the center. I tried to move one of the students, like pushing away. Most of the time the hip can absorb what the upper body can absorb. But if you do it on the center of the body, most of the time they're gonna respond. Yeah. And now, doesn't matter the level of the posture of the followers, always I use the center of the body. In my experience, because I have a big callus, you can see why it's important, right? And now, on this point, I try to give the signal on the center every time, right? Any direction I want to give is gonna be from the center to any direction. This is why in one of the exercises I said to try to move the follower on the lead, but not try to move her from the upper body. And now my base and my center is gonna be connecting too. That means I'm gonna try to use my center and her center to create the steps. Like I'm not trying to go from the chest.
Yeah, because then my lead is coming this way too.
Yeah, or do it from the free leg. Because most of the time the free leg pulls the other person. And now, I'm gonna start to think about more my standing leg and my center start to give the signal, and after I start to following her, right? This is gonna call the umpa lumpa, right?
Is going to be the lead, or you can call that the intention of the step. Yeah, it's communicating to me which way you're gonna go, and I'm preparing. You're both preparing for that step. For instance, I could be reaching backward or sideways or forward, and if he intends to take that step, he would be doing the same. Yeah, that's the intention. And then you have the actual weight transfer. Then it comes in the pa. 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 Pa.
Right? That means I can connect on this way from the lessons we did before on the transfer of weight, like I always start to feel the floor. But even if I do that, the intention always starts in the and on the center of the follower, right? That means I'm not trying to think about to lead the beat like this.
Pa, 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 pa. This is without the intention, just trying to lead in the last moment.
You can lead like that, you can.
But it's not as fluid.
But the other problem is you're gonna lose more chances to play with the rhythm too. We're gonna see it in a minute. Now, example I do. Pa, 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 pa. Now this is now we start to use my bass to give the intention for her on the next step, but she's not gonna start to feel like on this intention, she feels the next step, but I don't need to compromise my step to do that. And after I can do it on the transfer, I'm gonna do it again. I place my hip in a specific position for her to feel the moment of the walk, right? That means I'm gonna be careful with this because it's not, this is too sexy. Oh yeah, don't do that too. No, oh yes. Like I'm gonna place the hip and this gives intention to her, right? Now you can play. It's quite, I feel like I'm on the limit on my foot, like oh my god, I'm falling, but I can reach the Legato. This is one of the games, and the other is to start to use the center of the follower to reach back and forward. I'm not trying to move her at the same time I move my legs. On the place, I'm gonna be doing something like this. the visual effect looks like I'm going back and forward, yeah, like this. But it's basically she's transferred.
I'm not even transferring, it's just leading me intention backward, intention forward, pretty much.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Now.
Just the intention, he's playing with the intention. And then by going the opposite, it looks like he's blocking me with his movement.
About this way to dance, it's like you can organize the dance. I'm not going ahead of the photo. I can play with her. She can have fun with me. I'm not, in a certain way, I'm not commanding her. I invite her to move. And I respecting that, the way she moves too. And I follow her all the time. And what I like about this, you're gonna feel the connection. Because nobody's on charge. It's one person is organizing and the other is following. How much you feel this, the dances become more complete because you read each other and you listen to each other. That's what the way I like it about this way to dance. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
If you want, if I don't have that pause, I could do it, but it would be a lot harder. Okay? So you're gonna try that. You're gonna try to skip that one beat before you start playing. Let's see. One more time.
Many Biagis, and he breaks the structure in the same way. It's pretty similar. It's difficult to play with all these tempos most of the time to understand the main structure, right? And it's very interesting the way Biagi, he breaks the habanera, the idea of the habanera. When you hear D'Arienzo is pretty steady in that way. He plays
reliable.
Yeah, reliable.
Yeah.
Right?
Biagi not so reliable.
Yeah, maybe because this is why I stopped to work with D'Arienzo. Because it wasn't so reliable. I know.
Yeah. Sometimes, let's start. Yeah, so the first thing we did today was this little syncopated play that we found out was happening on the upbeat. So let's play it.
If we have the beat, so you're gonna do the happy.
So it's like pa, 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 pa. And he's doing the downbeat, and I'm gonna do.
Okay.
You do it? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Like you're doing the pa, 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 pa. Yeah, that was the first thing, and it was a little bit tricky to do that one. We had this idea of also using the pitch. Sometimes it was going pa-pum, 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 which drives us to want to ground the movement. So we could add a little drop. Pa-pum, 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 pa-pum. Yeah? And they also had sometimes like rising pitch. Pa, pum, pa.
Tua, tua.
Okay, tua,
Because you want to pa.
tua, tua. Okay.
Tua, tua.
Up, rising pitch. So, tua, 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 tua. Of course, all of this is just our interpretation. Everybody will do it in the way that they feel it. Yeah. I like the embellishment, especially going forward. Tua, 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 tua. Yeah, and that's something that I can easily use. Even if he's not trying to lead to the syncopation, for instance, I can apply that within the context of our communication.
Now
let's see it in the music.
We said about to use in the phrases of 8. You stop on the 7 to start.
One thing that helped was because, as we said, these movements here are on the upbeat. If you're going along and dancing to the beat, which is actually the downbeat, and then you want to switch and you're in motion, it's going to be hard to find it. By the time it comes, you're going to want to step on the downbeat, and then the play will come in between, and you're going to get all lost. One thing that I recommend is taking a little pause before you get there. So let's try this with the music, and I'm going to show. This makes it easier to do the transition. So. First, we use those phrases.
Now, when we start to explain between one of the ideas to contain the action, every time we try to create the syncopa. In this case, I'm going to try to do the weak, the first one. When I drop on the floor, the first one going to be weak, and the second one is the accentuation, right? If I lift the leg, something ta boom, ta boom, ta boom. Basically, I'm going to try to emphasize. And the second one is like I'm going to rest here, and I'm going to start to show her. I'm going to do the upbeat on the upper body too, because that's the way we should understand between the drop, ta boom, ta boom, ta boom, tua, tua, tua. I'm overdoing it now, right?
It's not quite like
I'm
that.
not doing this all the time, because you're going to see it like.
Right.
maybe polk or something. I don't know.
Something, yeah, we're not tango.
It's not tango.
One thing that I suggested also was that sometimes to do this pumpa can be a little bit hard, you know, to coordinate because it's fast. And I suggested that taking half a step and then falling back on the leg left from can be an easy way to get into this too. Pumpa, 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 pumpa. I find that this one is easier to follow, and so it's easier to get into because the follower doesn't have a chance. She doesn't have to move very fast. You simply stop the movement sooner. And then she's gonna have no option but to fall back there once you stop the energy for the forward step. So it's a little bit easier to lead this one than ultimately you can lead both.
Yeah, remember to don't project much the step because how big you try to do it, you don't get. And the last one we started to use the syncopation. We started talking about the habanera. Tara tum tam, tara tum tam, tara tum tam. Mostly the time, what they're using in the rhythms, in the tangos, they do para, pa, 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 para,
3, 5, 6, 7.
right?
1, 3, but you could also do 1, 3, and 5, 7. 1, 3, and 5, 7.
Now, that's what Biagi was doing in some of the phrases. Like
Yeah,
we
and
want
something
to.
else too that we also used.
Yeah. We have it's a little more complex than simple than that. What we try to use the base of the syncopation to break the habit to dance all the time on the beat, right? Because I think what is nice about this when you, in the case of the leader, can surprise the follower. But at the same time, the followers, they use these tempos like embellishment too. They don't need to. If they don't interfere in this case, the second case is more easy when if I go on the beat. Para pum pam, para pum pam, para pum pam, para pum pam. She play. Para pum pam, para pum pam, para pum pam, para pum pam, para. Right? That means she can use these tempos to do embellishments too. It's not necessary to follow all the time what the leader is doing, and you don't add any embellishment or any play.
Let's look a little bit at the 1, 3, 5. It's this one. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. That's one way. 3, 5, 6, 7. That quick, slow without syncopation. Now with the syncopation. 1. Okay, so now 1, 3, and 5, 7. 1, 3, and 5, 7. 1. 3 and 5, 7. 1, 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 3 and 5. Okay? So this was the other one. This one had the advantage that this is happening on the downbeat, so it's easier to catch because that is already where you want to step.
Let's see now all the three.
downbeat. There is Biagi is full of such rhythms. It can get very, very tricky, but you can also find the same syncopations in other orchestras. And once you start to understand and listen, there is a lot of opportunity to play. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point we start to play with the Sarli, and the first thing we start to understand is to differentiate the sound between staccato and legato. This is sometimes I play a little bit this. You don't need to film this because it's a sound anyway. If I play something like this, right, where we start to do something punctual, it's like a, right? Something punctual. It's not so stretchy. Or between this one. The difference is when you try to do this kind of walking one way and the other, the bell is more legato. That means you can hear a pum, a note, but at the same time it's stretch until the next gong again, right? When the clock doesn't do that, the clap, 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 clap is punctual. It's something like it's not stretching. Sometimes the people use mixing both. Like try to walk on the beat, like tum, bak, la, la.
It's not one,
la.
it's not the other.
Right?
We are trying to differentiate now. Yeah, and the previous workshop we were working on Biagi, which is very rhythmic, so everything is staccato. There is certain quality to the movement that matches that. And this workshop was the Sarli, which is more melodic. So you're trying to find a way of moving that is also more melodic.
Now, we started talking first about the way we do each step. So we're talking about, it's like to go into the ground to sustain, when the rhythmic one is to drop, is to discharge, right? And then we start to use the leg in the back, to use the arch of the foot to sustain the arch, right?
Yes.
And now, I do the step forward, I'm gonna start to feel like the arch of the foot is gonna help me to sustain the note. Tan, tan, tan. When the other is like ta pa, ta pa, ta pa, ta pa, tan, tan. And we start to go to the point where we use the phrases. In the habanera is tara tum tam, tara tum tam. But the Sarli was tara tum ta, tara tum ta, tara tum ta, tara tum ta.
Suspending toward the end instead of dropping towards the end.
Now we start to do, the beginning we start to say, okay, we're gonna do one step and we suspend. Step, suspend, step, suspend, step, suspend, step, suspend, right? It's like to use the sensation all the time, but we don't really walk all the time in that way on tango.
It's not every other step suspending.
Yeah.
We're going to start to use those toward the end of the phrase, and that's the idea of cadencia. This is slowing down at certain points in the music. Yeah, that's normally the end of the phrases, as we said. So our movement accompanies that.
And now we're gonna start to use. I'm gonna show you the cadencia on this tara tum ta. No, this one, not this one. Tara. Right? I'm gonna use this. everybody starts to feel like every time we create this cadencia and this feeling, it's in a specific moment of the phrase. It's not every time, it's not everywhere. Say para, tum, pa, la, para, tum, para, tum, para, right?
So we had the notions of the rhythmic versus melodic way of walking. In the Sarli, it's mostly melodic, but you do have rhythmic phrases too, so you can vary that. You can add the suspensions or cadencias toward the end of the phrases or in certain points as you're walking. And then the last thing he did was to give some of those endings to the follower.
Yeah?
He did it in a specific way. There are many different ways, but today we did it in the Parada.
Param, pam, para, pam, para. Right? Now, the most important is if I use the phrases of tango to create this kind of play, we're going to start to see how the way we compose the sequence, right? Param, pam, para, pam, para, pam, para, pa, para, pam, para, pam, para, pam, pa, pam, para.
And so on.
Right? The idea is to start to understand the phrases. It's something I give to her to play, but at the same time, she needs to listen to music. She can play with that. It's something that I build this moment for her, but at the same time, the followers need to listen to music to take this opportunity too.
This is for both of us. Yeah. Even through the way that I'm responding, to each step, I can influence some of the leads too. Yeah, by delaying my movement just a little bit, but making it just a little bit smoother. Sometimes if the leader is sensitive to that, we start to play off of each other. Or the other way around. Sometimes I can pick up the rhythm, so I'm still following the steps that he led with the timing that he led, but I can add a little, snap to it, and if the leader is sensitive to that, he'll pick up on the rhythm too, and so on. Okay.
Now, when you play with this, you can do any kind of figure you want to find them this concept.
Yeah, these qualities of movement, they go into every single step that you're taking.
Yeah. Para pam para pam para para pam para pam para pam para pam para para pam para pam para pam, right?
And so on.
You can create the sensation in any moment to maintain this Sarli idea, because it's quite romantic and melodic and sweet, but when you just try to make the sequence, sometimes I don't see the energy with the music is real.
Yeah.
Now, we have okay, this is everything about the Sarli. We have a little break now.
Yeah, we
We're gonna
start again at 4:30.
4:30. Right. Okay. Thank you, guys. The first start to do is we start to practice the idea on the core. This is why we start to put the legs together. We start to do quick, forward, quick. Finding the happy dog to do this. The ankles together. And we're going back the same. Fast. The idea is to start to practice your core before you're thinking about what to do with the free leg. And after we start to do the same exercise, maintaining the same front, ankles together, forward and side and back and side, forward, side, back, side, forward. Right? It's to go in how much fast you can. Right?
The point of these exercises is to understand that when you're turning, and especially when you're turning fast, which is the case in Vals, you have the dynamics, that all of the speed and the power of the movement is coming from the core. What makes us fast is the pivots, is the way you're doing the pivots, and it's not about the free legs. Sometimes when you're trying to do a fast turn, we forget that, and we start trying to go fast with the legs. I start trying to do this fast with my legs without focusing on the pivots. But that's going to make me feel rushed, and the movement is not so clean. The real work is all happening here during the pivot. If I can pivot fast, then the step is going to be fast. So the leg is much slower than the core. Yeah. So that is the idea. In the beginning, I'm really trying to work on our technique here so that you understand which muscles are involved and how you're using them to create those fast pivots that you're going to need in the turns for valse.
And now,
Or in any fast turn.
yeah. And I was starting to in the beginning, it's like going on the combining, play with this. Da, da, da. We can do something together. Da, da. And now it's led, it's not.
Yeah,
Right?
he's leading me.
Or in this case, I'm gonna be walking back. She's gonna be fast. But I lead in this, I'm not. Right? And now we start to combine the tempos a little bit on vals now with this sequence. How we do? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, da, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba. Why? Because the tempos in vals is going cycles of 3, right?
Yes. So when you think about valse, the difference from tango and milonga is that valse is going in these cycles of 3. That means each measure in the music, yeah, each unit of the music has these 3 beats. Yeah, so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you're trying to use now 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so on.
Yeah. The most important for the followers when she do the 1, 2 is to practice the idea to sustain, to go down, right? Because sometimes they want to project. It's not much on the projection; it's much to sustain. From this idea, from this point, we can start to practice the idea to play with the tempos. And now what we start to do. 1, 2, I interrupt the action of the follower. 1, 2, go, yeah? And we start 1, and the phrases is count in 8 in vals, right?
Just like tango and milonga.
1
and 2 and 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 7, 8.
Right? And now, I'm gonna give you one exercise to do and show you the sequence. We're gonna do the same. I was doing this on this side, right? I'm gonna start to do the similar sequence on this side. It's gonna be the same side, cross, tap, jump, front.
So not the same sequence, another sequence.
No, I was interrupting on
Yeah,
this side.
yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt on this side.
Right, but the sequence of steps is different because you have a cross.
That's okay, but what I mean is like I'm gonna make one interruption on the other side.
Okay, okay.
I'm gonna do it with a
Let's
cross.
do it, yeah.
Now.
Yeah. 1, 2.
Okay, now 1, 2. You can do it on the front, or you can do it with the cross. Right? Doesn't matter if you collect or if you do the cross. The point what here is like we're gonna do the sequence. Forward, side, front of the follower, side, back, side, forward. On the front, I can do the cross. Chum, around of her, cross, oh, sorry, and out. Okay, and now, on this point, we're gonna do 1, 2, 1, 2, down, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Right? That means you can do this kind of rhythm or play with the rhythm in different sequences. It's not necessary to do it only in this side. You have many more combinations. But we show you something where you can practice the tempo and the phrases.
And what is important to us, as we said, in all of the circular movements, to be focusing on the core.
Yeah, we're gonna play a little one song, a little bit.
Let's try.
adiós y el alma de un rosario que muere. 2 años otra vez, siento que después no lo veremos más. Llega la cerrazón, pero la ilusión no vendrá acá. Sombra entre los dos, que un todo la torna por la claridad. Amor que se abre y cruza, puñal de luz de toda la esperanza. Hoy por distinta huella no cerca la vida. Amor que nunca olvida nos da de llorar. 2 años otra vez, siento que después no lo veremos más. Llega la cerrazón, pero la ilusión no vendrá acá.
You can do, what I like about the vals is the breathing too. We don't have really much time to work on everything, but I like this breathing feeling on the phrases, right?
The vals has this kind of circular energy to it. Yeah, that's why you're also doing turns, but it's a wap, ba, wap, ba, wap, ba, wap, ba. It has a certain flow, yeah, that is ongoing, and that we can accompany, we can accentuate that with our breathing. And create the same sense of flow in the movement that we have with the sound. And that's different.
Vals.
Yeah, that's more like Milonga. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, get inspired. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for showing us this weekend.
Thank you. Very much.
Llegaba en coche a la ventana de la moza y se embriagaba con glicinas y jazmín.